We are rolling and recording. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people that make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, entrepreneurs, entertainers, community leaders, artists, and basically all sorts of other cool people who live and work in Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brook, broker and owner with Billings Best Real Estate. And today, my guest is Rebecca Langman from Revision Custom Home Design. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Rebecca. Now, I've known Rebecca maybe 3, 4, 5 years or something like that. Rebecca is a design graduate, and she graduated with a BFA from Harrington Institute in Interior Design in Chicago. She'll tell us all about what her education was like. And she studied in Paris for a semester, which that sounds like fun. I don't know if I would have left Paris, but she did, and she came to Bozeman, and she loved Bozeman, I think a little bit. She loved Montana a little bit more than Paris. So she decided she was going to stay in Montana, and she's been here over 19 years, and she's made Billings her home. Now, Rebecca, as an interior designer, she works to design parade homes, floor plan designs for neighborhood developments, commercial store layouts. I know she's personally helped me design projects around the house. So let's hear from Rebecca, and welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us all about, first of all, how in the world did you get interested in being an interior designer?
So it was kind of one of those things growing up. My dad is an engineer. My mom was extremely artistic. And I fell right smack in the middle, left brain, right brain. I definitely have that creative side, but I love checklists and getting things to line up. So it was kind of a lifelong passion of getting into housing and seeing how I could create spaces that people enjoyed being in.
So even when you were a little kid, you kind of liked arranging your living room or your bedroom?
Yep. Yeah,
That's
even from about age 6 or 7, I was already sketching out floor plans, building houses out of Legos, and rearranging my furniture pretty frequently.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you just knew from an early age that interior design was the career for you?
Yep. Yep, got lucky that way.
So then you graduated from high school. I know you're originally from Minnesota.
Yep.
And then you went on to get your interior design degree. So how did you pick a college? That must have been kind of a challenging situation.
It definitely was. You know, my parents wanted me to go to U of M, Minnesota, but the interior design campus was also on the ag campus, and I didn't like that the design classrooms were right next to the cow pastures. So that was one excuse. I did look at schools kind of all over the country and settled on Harrington in Chicago. Loved the city. I'd visited there once or twice before and really liked the energy. And I love the architectural history of the city. So I went to a very small school in a big city. So we had that real world studio experience. And one of the really cool things about the school I went to was that all of the teachers were practicing designers who only taught 1 or 2 days a week. So we were getting real life, up to date information instead of this was what the textbook said 20 years ago.
So what was it like, though, going from having your own ideas to actually having a curriculum and having to do things so formally? That must have been just a change, right? Because you're just playing with Legos, having fun, and all of a sudden now you have to put plans on paper?
Well, it's actually something that, because I had known from a young age, I actually had started taking a lot of other classes when I was younger. I did a summer school class for fun when I was in middle school to learn drafting. So I already knew kind of the basics of that. I took drafting in high school again.
Drafting for fun? In middle school?
It was a necessary evil, and I used to taunt my teachers with that.
That's amazing.
But drafting is a visual language. It's how you communicate your ideas. And so if you can't draft well, you're not going to be able to communicate your ideas to builders, to clients, and get those jobs built, which is the fun part. So it's part of getting to the fun.
So you're in college, you have, it sounds like excellent mentors. So how do you go from just kind of being a general interior design student to figuring out what area you want to specialize in? Because everybody has different areas of interest, right? Some people want to fluff up your living room, right? Some people maybe do closet designs. Some people do more house designs.
Yeah. So it really came down to the real world experience after graduation. The education was a good, well-rounded, here's all the different aspects of design. Once I graduated, I worked basically the whole gamut. I started out at a furniture store, then I went to a remodeling company, then a new home construction company, then back to a custom furniture and design firm, and sort of got that really balanced experience. And I got to kind of say, hey, this is where I make the most sense. This is the part that appeals to me the most. And it turned out that that was the custom new homes, designing the plans, figuring out how things fit together. Tetris has always been a big thing that I've enjoyed, and it's how do we fit all of these things in a defined space. So that it just always appealed to me, and it was fun. And there is that creative element of I can see black and white lines on paper, but I can see it in my head as a finished project. And so how do I convey that to my client and get them excited about the project?
And so were you actually working with clients when you were a student?
Not so much when I was a student. Then it's all theoretical clients.
Okay,
You know, the teachers give you the brief.
The teachers pretend they're reviewing for the
You've
client.
been hired to design this condo.
Okay.
Here's the parameters. Go for it. So, yes. But once I graduated and was working for companies here in Billings, I really did get to have a lot of that one-on-one experience, because a lot of the companies here are a lot smaller. You know, had I stayed in Chicago, I would have been one of 50 people at a company, and I may or may not have ever met the client in person. So I definitely like that one-on-one interaction, working in residential design versus commercial design.
Okay. So that does make a difference, because
does.
some people maybe want to design office spaces, and you really like the home.
Definitely like the homes. So.
And so before we jump into Montana, I want to hear about your ooh la la experience in Paris. How did you end up there?
That was a really fun trip. It was one of those things where my mom had always said, if you ever get the chance to travel when you're in college, take it no matter what it costs. And sure enough, I called her up one day. I said, Mom, we're going to Paris. I signed up, and let's figure this out. So worked really hard, you know, earned the money to make that trip happen. But it was 15 of us interior design students. We spent most of a summer in Paris. We had 2 architects that led the trip, and it was not so much of a curriculum. We weren't in a classroom. We were in the city, and the city was the classroom. So we went to all the different museums in town. We went to various historical buildings and, you know, Le Corbusier residences that were designed. We traveled around the country a little bit. We went to the Opera House in Lyon, and we saw a Le Corbusier church out towards the Swiss border. And so it was really great to see all these buildings in person that we had seen in the textbooks. And then the architects were just telling us everything they knew, and then we either had to turn in a sketchbook or a photograph album at the end of the trip. And so I did photography the whole time that I was there of these buildings that we saw.
Wow.
So.
That sounds like fun. And it was a whole semester of this?
It was about a month and a half.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That sounds like a dream study.
Yes, it was well worth it.
So then you decided to go to Montana. And so were you graduated at this point, or were you still trying to finish some credits?
I was still trying to finish out some credits. So the school that I went to in Chicago assumed that most people came with some undergrad credits, and I knew what I wanted to do right away, so I came straight out of high school. So I knew I had to go somewhere for a year just to get those few extra credits. And I had a sister that was in the architecture program in Bozeman, so I thought that's as good a place as any to finish out my year of credits. And so I came out here, spent that time in Bozeman, and then I did have to go back to Chicago for one more year afterwards. So kind of broke up that time in Chicago, which was nice. But loved the state out here so much that after graduation, this was right where I came.
But you didn't go back to Bozeman, you
Nope.
came to Billings. So what made you decide on Billings?
Well, I met my husband.
Oh, okay. So there's more to the story.
A little more, but no, the state was very welcoming. And it was definitely a place I wanted to be.
So what do you love about Montana and Billings too?
Well, you know, I being raised in my family, my dad was a huge nature person.
Right.
And so I really like that I can be in a city, because I still am a city girl at heart. But I love that in half an hour I can be outside of Columbus in the middle of nowhere fishing with my boys, or you know, hiking, or just getting out of town. And yet I live in a big enough town that I can also be at the grocery store or the gas station in 3 minutes, which is good because I'm not always great at planning dinner.
Yeah, so you like the access to the outdoors.
I do.
Yeah, and
Very
Billings is a big enough city. It's obviously not Chicago, but...
No, I would not have stayed Chicago long term.
Right. But you have the features that you like in a city.
Absolutely, and I love what I'm seeing in Billings for the growth. Obviously, as a designer and as someone who is trying to pay attention to the housing industry, there's a lot of things that I would like to see happen here. But I think we can get there. So.
Well, and before we kind of start about how you started your business, you know, one of the things that strikes me is it seems like, especially with new construction, you know, sort of the pre-built houses, that a lot of them are really similar and don't have a lot of that pizzazz, that interior design flair. Is that something that you've worked on in the real estate industry? Do you ever work on new construction?
So I do work on designing homes to be built. So it is new construction homes, but most everything that I do is a one-off. So it is a custom home for a specific client.
I see.
I do have I do have my own line of stock plans, which are sort of the general plans that sometimes builders will buy or people will buy and just build as is. But they're all based on custom projects that I've done. So they have maybe more unique features than you would see in your standard builder grade home.
Right.
Because a lot of builders, when they're picking a plan that they're going to build 5 times in a subdivision, they're looking at cost savings.
Of course.
They're looking at things that's easily repeatable. They're trying to find the plan that's going to suit the most people. And when you try to design for the masses, you're never going to please most.
Yeah,
So.
and that, you know, that does seem to make sense. So if somebody were to buy like one of these just pre-made builder homes, can they hire you to make some finesse after it's built? I mean, is that an opportunity too?
To some extent, yes. You know, and depending on when they purchase that house, whether they purchase it while it's still being built or whether they wait until it's completed, sometimes there are options to make some choices like paint color or choosing the color of your countertops, depending on your builder. Some builders just like to build it and be done and sell it. But after the fact, if you've moved into a house that is fairly basic in terms of the colors, you know, a lot of people just do white because it's safe.
Sure.
I can absolutely come in and help you add your personality to the home. Things like paint color, things like how to arrange the furniture within the space, and you know, always add in, you know, wallpaper is definitely something that's trending a little bit now. So, does that make sense to add to your space?
Well, and I remember this was years ago. You were talking about like how you can have different preferences. Like some people like more textures and more, I don't know, thickness and richness to their decor. And I guess I never really thought about that because so often you see things that are pretty stark and modern, and nothing wrong with that. But you have a way to just inject somebody's personality into a space. That's how do you get there? So how do you get from this blank canvas to actually having the person feel like, wow, this is me, this is my home?
It's knowing what questions to ask, and after having done this for as long as I have, some of it's just things that I know. If I hear a certain phrase or see a picture that they show me, I kind of know to follow up with certain questions. Oh, what is it about this that you like? Is it the color? Is it the texture? Is it the warmth of the wood? And so you learn to kind of pull those things out of people. One thing I like to do, especially if someone thinks they don't know what their style is, I'll have them show me like 3 or 4 pictures that they really love and 1 or 2 pictures that is absolutely not their style. And it's interesting to see what they choose for that because you can actually pull out a lot of detail and help to really fine-tune what it is that they like and what they're comfortable with. So it's always amazing when I put something together. And again, I've been doing this long enough that sometimes I don't even consciously know that I'm doing it, but I'll go and I'll add an element to a rendering for a client and say, you know, here's your proposed kitchen, and I'll have put in a paint color or a wood color or something, and they'll just be like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with that element. And it was just something that I didn't maybe consciously pick, but I just knew that that was the right choice for that space based on what they had expressed wanting.
Well, and sometimes you change, right? Because, you know, I'll use my daughter as an example. She has a nice, newer built house, and she decorated it kind of modern, modern farmhouse style, which she liked, but then she's kind of looking at it now and feeling like she needs to evolve from there. And so probably some people just, maybe they liked it to start, but they're ready for a change.
Absolutely. And change is good. And we should change and we should evolve, and our homes should change with us.
Yeah.
Just because you had it for 20 years doesn't mean you're stuck with it.
So what would you say is the biggest opportunity for people who maybe have a house they like, but maybe they're going to sell it in 5 years, so they don't want to go, too crazy, red walls or anything like that. What would you say the biggest changes they could do that would help them appeal to a buyer?
Well, when it comes to that, as I'm not a realtor,
No.
but I'm friends with a lot of realtors,
Right.
Like you and many others. My thoughts on the whole designing for resale are that unless resale is something that you are working towards and planning on in the next 1 to 2 years, you need to be the one enjoying your home.
Okay.
So unless it's something like a $20,000 marble slab on your countertop, that's very specific. You want to know you're staying. But things like paint, that is one of the easiest things to change when you decide to sell that home. So if a boring white room is going to drive you absolutely batty for as long as you live there, paint it whatever color you want. That can be changed so quickly and cheaply.
Do the red wall if you want
the
red or black or whatever color you
Well,
want.
red takes about 5 coats of paint to cover, but just about anything else, yes. And if you still love the red, do it anyway. Bring it in pillows, bring it in other things. Design for you, because your home is your space and it needs to recharge you and it needs to energize you. So again, unless you're trying to sell it in 6 months, do you.
But that's a really good point too, because even if you have, like, let's just say, kind of neutral, boring walls, whether they're white or just tan or something, you can always have that spark with the art you have or the pillows you have or a carpet or rug or
Definitely. And there's a lot of things. Make the home for you, even if it is a cool countertop or a cool tile. Again, those are things you never know who's actually going to be going to really like that. You might not be turning off as many buyers as you think if you do it well. There's a lot of trends right now with bringing in more color, and you'd be amazed how that actually is a selling point and not, ooh, I'm going to have to change that right away when a buyer walks through. So.
That's really true. I guess so often you see things that are pretty safe, that when you see something bold, sometimes it's not executed well.
Yes,
So.
yes, if it's executed well. And color and texture and all of those things change the feel of a space. So, for example, people that stage their homes prior to listing it for sale, they are trying to evoke a certain emotion with the space. They're also using little tricks here and there, like pulling the furniture out from the wall a few inches, or the size of the rug, or things like that, that make a buyer feel that the space is a certain shape and size, when if the furniture was arranged differently, it would have a completely different feeling. So there's definitely psychology behind staging as well, which is totally different than designing for living in a house.
Right, and we've all walked in houses, haven't we, where you just feel a little bit off or uncomfortable, and whether it's the furniture's too big in the house and it feels like you're getting squeezed in, or the hallways feel kind of narrow because of how it's the paint on the wall or something. So it's really interesting when you say that, because there's so many factors that go into how you feel about a house, and you don't even really maybe consciously think of it. When you're day to day. Well, so, and you've been in your business how many years now? So you've been in Billings 19.
Years.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I've been in Billings almost 21 now.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's getting up there, yeah. But yeah, no, been in business about 7-8 years now. I had a little hiatus after working for all those other companies where I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom, and then realized I was a horrible stay-at-home mom. And I needed to do something. I needed to create, and the time was just right. And so I kind of set the wheels in motion. And when my youngest was, shortly after he was born, that's when I started taking clients. So, and he'll be 8 next month.
Well, and I just remember, like I said, I've probably known you 5 years, something like that. And you're just such a hard worker. I mean, you just diligently do your work, and you started just with like these wine and design packages where people could invite some people over and have just a little get together in their house, and you go through some design.
And everything. Yeah, I would have people invite me over for those. One time someone had just moved into their new home, and they had a lot of framed artwork, family photos and things that they just didn't know what to do with. So we went through the whole entire house, and we identified which pieces went where, and I got out my hammer and started just hanging artwork that day. And it turned out awesome. So that, lots of stories like that where I was able to help people just acclimate to their new space, or maybe they'd lived there a year and they still hadn't put anything up on the walls, or still didn't know how to arrange furniture in a space, or they walked into this room and they knew something was missing, and so we would talk through what it was that they maybe needed, and I would give them advice on what to go shopping for.
But these were just pretty simple low-end packages, and from that you just seemed like you gained momentum. But I
Yes.
know it wasn't always really easy starting this business.
Oh, I mean, it never is.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of times people
But-
will see your success
Yeah.
and they'll think, oh, well, of course, she's got this fancy degree, she went to Paris, she studied there. But really, it's kind of all your incremental work.
Exactly, it's consistency. And a piece of advice that I was given very early on is, if you want this thing to work, you need to do something every day to make it work. And so even on my off days, even, not that I had many, because mom and waitressing and everything else, I did I was working 7 days a week to get this off the ground. Every day I was doing something to make this business happen. So.
And so what were some of the little things that you would continue to do?
Consistency in marketing, being present online, putting myself out there, things like thinking about different product offerings, not just the actual one-on-one client work, but what can I do to maybe expand my reach? So that's where the line of stock plans came in. And they're a product of their own, but they're also just a really great gallery to showcase the variety of styles that I can work in. I do also have a home planning journal, which is available on Amazon. And it basically is a journal, but it's got a couple pages at the beginning of advice, of kind of questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about building a new home, features, sizes, all those types of things. And so all these little things that add up to making my business thrive.
Well, and I remember during COVID, things really changed for you, didn't they? Because you were doing in-person things here, and then of course everything went quiet in that realm, but it turned out to be a blessing, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They say that the businesses that can thrive when things get rough are the ones that are going to survive long term. And I think that's really, really true. I did get a very small grant that allowed me to upgrade my computer, which allowed me to up-level my software, which I use for everything. I have a really great software that allows me to draft and render and create all of my products to show my clients. So I was able to do that. In the immediate short term, when everything shut down, I did virtual Zoom backdrops. So I created little fake rooms that people could use as a backdrop in their Zoom meetings, which was a lot of fun because it was really creative. I created one for my son for virtual school. So he had the coolest bedroom in the Zoom meetings when he had school. And from there, it kind of reinforced that what I do isn't necessarily tied to Billings. I can work with clients everywhere. And so that really opened the door to marketing myself across the country. And I've been fortunate enough to pick up clients in many, many states. I've lost count. I have a map somewhere, but I work with a ton of clients. I've got projects being built all through the South, Texas, Carolinas, and so forth. And so that what could have been a complete shutdown, I can't teach classes in person anymore, I can't go to someone's home anymore, really turned into, look at all these new people I can meet. So it was an awesome
So how were you able to connect with all these people? How were they finding out about you?
Yeah, by putting myself out there on social media. I've gotten very comfortable being on camera and just being authentic in what I do and how I can help people. TikTok, going live, YouTube, lots of different formats where I can go live and showcase not only the finished product, but how I get to that finished product. So showing the process of drafting out a home, showing the process of picking materials, shooting videos, showing, when I go to a furniture store, what are the things that I look at. So really just informing my clients and educating them on all the cool different parts of my job that help them in the end.
Well, I remember when the first time we got together for coffee, you admitted after that you were kind of nervous meeting people and talking to people, and it's so funny that that's how you're attracting clients, is you're just like getting big on social media.
Exactly. And it's
which is great.
Someday you just have to get over it.
Yeah, but
it's
but that's really cool. I mean, people sometimes, like I said, they see your success and they don't see the things you've had to work through.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's really great to kind of look back and see that evolution in myself.
Yeah.
Because I remember going to events here in Billings, Chamber of Commerce, their monthly socials. Back when I, 20 years ago, was working for some small companies, I asked for permission to go because my boss was a member, and I asked if I could go to the social. And I planted myself right at the end of the dessert table, and I don't think I talked to a single person the entire time for about 3 or 4 months until I finally got up the courage to put my hand out there and say hi to someone. And so people that maybe met me 20 years ago would not believe that I'm the same person. They do not remember meeting me 20 years ago. And so it's really fun to kind of look back at that and go, yeah, I knew that I wanted to be successful in this realm. I knew that I had to work on these things. I had to work on that confidence, and I was able to figure it out. So, yeah.
So what would you say has been the most difficult time as a business owner?
There's no one telling me what to do. You have to have a goal in mind. You have to know what you want to accomplish, and you have to know that, yeah, it's okay to take a day off. And if you don't feel like working, there's no one that's going to say, hey, you're not at your desk and it's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. But if you don't, you're not going to have the success that you want. And that doesn't mean I work 20 hours a day, but it means that I have to make those choices for myself and just remind myself, this is what I'm working towards. And I love every minute of what I do. My husband honestly has to remind me sometimes at 8 o'clock at night that I haven't eaten dinner or come upstairs and said hi to the kiddos yet. But it's all in working towards that end goal of having the freedom to work when I want. I might work till 8 o'clock at night, but it's because I've gone and been able to pick my son up from school, or go to a sporting event, or do those things with my family at the time that I want.
Well, I think you make a really good point, because a lot of times people see, like, I'm in real estate, oh, you can set your own hours. Yes, you can,
but
you do work maybe more hours at the end of the week than you would have being employed. But you do have flexibility.
I do, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm very happy it's worked out that way.
So when did you realize that you had made it as a business owner? Because I know, the first few years are challenging.
They are definitely tough. I guess I realized that I made it when I was able to retire my husband.
Aww.
So it was one of those things where we were just kind of at that tipping point of, I was working so much that I was struggling to be able to pick up the kids every single day. And his job wasn't something he enjoyed as much, so we were able to make that decision that my job was going to be it, and he was going to help out with the kiddos, and it worked out really, really well. So he is a retired artist, and I do what I want to do.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, what advice would you have for people in Billings who want to start a business?
Do it. Come up with an idea. Reach out to other entrepreneurs that have done it. There is a really great entrepreneur community here in Billings in a number of different places. You do kind of have to dig, but there's various networking groups. There's a group called 1 Million Cups that meets every Wednesday. There's also resources through places like Rock 31, the Small Business Administration, where you can get guidance for free. So reach out, find those things, and put yourself out there. Go to the chamber. You don't have to be a member. You can just go to their socials. Go to events in your industry. I'm a big member of the Home Builders Association because those are the people that I want to connect with. Be present, and just ask questions, because I have not run into any entrepreneurs yet that are going to gatekeep everything.
Yeah. Well, and before we go, let people know how they can find you.
So you can find me pretty much online anywhere you want. My website is rchomedesign.com, but you can just look up Revision Custom Home Design on Facebook, Insta, TikTok, all of them.
Otherwise, or your name. They find
look up
you
Rebecca
name?
Langman. You can. Yes. You can just search me directly, and I will show up.
Great.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful catching up with you. I haven't seen you in so long. And folks, thank you for joining us at our episode for All About Billings, and hope to see you next time.